Oh my gosh, Nina, why would you start an arts fund even though you've never done this before, but you want to support emerging artists in film, fashion, and art? Why would you do this? The economy is not blah, 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 blah. This is why. So on March 27th, 2025, Trump issued an executive order that targets funding that advances divisive narratives and improper ideology, which is his latest attack on culture that he deems too liberal. He also says in this executive order that there's been a concerted and widespread effort over the past decade to rewrite American history by replacing objective facts with a distorted narrative driven by ideology rather than truth. And he also adds that it casts the founding principles of the United States in a negative light. This executive order also places Vice President J.D. Vance on the Smithsonian Institute's Board of Regents to effectively oversee efforts to remove improper ideology from all areas of the institution, including its museums, education and research centers, and the National Zoo. President Trump has repeatedly taken hits at the arts and culture space. We saw it with his attack on the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, and we've seen this with the way that he's forced Columbia University to make a litany of policy changes with the threat of rescinding a lot of millions, I should say, federal funding. This executive order would also reinstate Confederate statues that we effectively removed come the movements in 2020. And he's also singled out the National Museum of African American History and Culture, the Women's History Museum that's currently in development, and the American Art Museum as well. He also says, quote, "Museums in our nation's capital should be places where individuals go to learn, not be subjected to ideological indoctrination or divisive narratives that distort our shared history," end quote. But as someone who started a venture fund for the arts that specifically targets and supports and empowers creatives in the emergent side in film, fashion, art, with the entire mission to preserve our history and culture for those generations after us, this is deeply alarming. Fascism typically targets intellectuals, educators, and educational and cultural institutions first, to essentially destroy any evidence of the past prior to their reign and then rewrite history moving forward. And we're seeing that in real time with the most recent executive order attacking arts and culture in the United States. And it's really tough for these cultural institutions to fight back a lot of the time because they've received so much federal funding through grants. And that's why I take an approach of a more privatized fund, because I think I've said in a prior video, like, I will give you the private fund battle of your life, to preserve American history as it's unfolded over time since our formation. I've also said in prior videos, and I will say again, that artists and creators are the most vital people in the movements of resistance, just because they constantly hold us accountable of what needs to be addressed in society and what needs to be fixed and how we can do better and evolve. If you have an administration that doesn't value those things and claims that literally only like white culture is the American standard in American history, then we're all worse off in the end. So the call to action remains on us, the US citizens, to fight back in the ways I've said before. It is more pertinent now than ever to go buy physical mediums and to support local artists to preserve those stories so we can have it when this nightmare eventually blows over. But for right now, this is our pure act of resistance. I really encourage you to purchase literary works, artworks, to support the arts infrastructure in any way you can. And by me doing it through this fund, it's also calling to action for those who are more in the Medici brackets, where it's easy for us to feel like we're helpless, we can't do anything. But if we continue to fight in other ways, if we can continue to change our tactics, I really do think that we can preserve America in all of its glory and all of its beauty. And it's our time to step up and really fight for and save this country, its culture, and its stories.